if you haven't seen the flyer, didn't know what this is about mental health and sales. And so we brought Georgina here, who is an executive coach. She was in sales for a lot of her career, and now she helps out salespeople by doing these executive coachings and just kind of help them have that work-life balance and what it means. I know me myself, I've struggled, with that in sales, and I think it's one of the most important things that you could do in your career, is to make sure you have that good mental health balance, to be able to be the best that you can be, the most productive that you can be, but the happiest that you can be too, within your sales career. So I'll hand it over to you, JoBeth, with that.
Yeah, and so JoBeth Hanak here. We're going to do the format of 20 minutes of Georgina talking, and then we'll do 20 minutes of discussion and questions. And then we'll go ahead and break out into our little groups like we usually do. Definitely can use that time to talk about whatever, but it's also a really good opportunity to talk about mental health. So with that, Georgina, do you want to get us started?
I'd love to. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you all today. And I thought let's start with a little exercise to just drop us down and get us into the zone of chilling out and being receptive. So if you're open to that and if you're comfortable, then just sit up straight and shut your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so, and take a couple of deep breaths. Okay, I want you to breathe all the way down into your abdomen. And then as you breathe out, just notice the tension start to unspool, okay? As you breathe in a feeling of clarity. And as you breathe out a feeling of relaxation, noticing your shoulders drop, noticing the tension in your jaw starting to unspool. And take a moment to just focus on a couple of breaths, being really thankful for this time and this space that you're giving yourself for your own happiness and your own well-being. And I want you to imagine there's a little box by your feet, and I want you to take all of your cares and all of your concerns, all of your worries and have-tos, and mentally pluck them out and put them into that box. Put a lid on it, tie it up with a big bow, and put it to the side. If you so wish, you can pick it up at the end of the session, or you can leave it. But for now, you have the space to just be. And when you're ready, just come on back into the room. Okay. So hi, everyone. My name's Georgina Halabi, and I'm a mindset and well-being coach. And I help professionals who want to accelerate their career success, but without compromising on their self-care needs. And before I was a coach, I had about 25 years worth of sales in both Europe and Asia, starting within the advertising and marketing space. And then for the last 8 years of that was working in MarTech platforms, selling software as a service for loyalty. And I always worked in quite small companies where I was the Asian subsidiary for larger head offices. So my job was pre-sales, post-sales, client servicing, strategy, operations, the whole lot of it. So that has always kept me very, very busy. And as a result, it's always been very, very important for me to have some sort of balance. So I've had two fundamental needs: outer success, but also inner peace. So I'm really happy to share with you some tips and insights that I've been able to garner along the way. So it's been a very interesting journey for me. By way of background, I started meditating when I was about 16. That was 30 years ago. My journey also took me along many different spiritual paths. I learned a lot of NLP and self-hypnosis. And when I came to Asia, I did a course on the teachings of Buddhism, the foundations of Buddhism, for about 4 years, and being able to apply that into mindfulness meditation. And then about 2 years ago, I did my coaching course, and that covers positive psychology, neuroscience, and a lot of NLP and visualization, which I also specialize in. So that's enough about me. Let's talk about you. So Do you ever feel like you're drowning? Do you ever feel that if you don't answer every single email, WhatsApp message or request, that they're just going to pile up, pile up, pile up, pile up, and then they're just going to come in and bury you? Do you ever feel like there's relentless pressure that never ever stops, and a constant performance anxiety to prove that you're being productive all of the time? Because hey, nobody can see you right now. You have to show it in front of your computer, never being able to switch off. Do you ever feel that if you don't hit your numbers or you're not on target, that somehow you're a failure, or you're letting down the team, or letting down your peers, or letting down your company, or worse than that, letting yourself down? And as a result, your life is two extremes, one of 1,000,000 miles an hour, or the other one a catatonic stupor. And come the weekend, oh my God, you just want to get yourself out there and have some fun, but you only have energy for just sitting in front of Netflix like a zombie. And then the final one, yeah, I hear you. And my final one, which is a biggie, do you ever feel that you have to constantly be tough and show a brave face? Because if you don't, if you show signs of vulnerability or compassion or kindness, it's a sign of weakness. Yeah. So if that's how you feel, I can completely relate to that. And I want to share a story. It's a rather cringy story, but it's also one of the moments that I'm quite proud of in my life. And it starts with me in the ladies' toilets, crying my eyes out. And I've just stood up and walked out of a meeting with the Exco board, because for the first time in my life, I've just been mansplained. People were talking over me, and somebody actually said, what Georgina meant to say was, and I just stood up and I walked out. I held it together as far as the toilet, then I just went like this. I had snot running down my face. I had eyeliner everywhere. I'm not a pretty crier. I look like Shrek. It's just awful. And I remember, about 2 or 3 minutes into it, being aware of the time and, thinking, how on earth am I going to walk back into that room with a load of men looking like this? So I started to mop up my face, and I realized it was hopeless. And in that moment, something shifted. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go in there like this. I'm not even going to try and tidy myself up. I'm not going to apologize, and I'm not going to compromise. So I got up. I did wipe a bit of the snot off, just, hygiene purposes. This was before Corona. And I walked back into that room and silence. And I sat down and I spoke. I explained what happened. I explained I didn't like being talked over, and they listened. And the CEO actually was the first one to apologize. And even though it's a really very embarrassing thing to talk about, part of me is very proud of standing up for myself and being authentic, because I think it took real balls to walk into that room. And the amazing thing is I have a great relationship with all of these people still. I still consult for that business. But the main thing that I want to share with you is that relationships is all about sales. I mean, sales is all about relationships, right? It's the relationships that we have with others, and turning up authentically is part of that. But also a massive part of it is the relationship with yourself, and being in integrity with yourself. And so I believe that no job is worth your health or your happiness, period. Or as they say in England, full stop, And the more happy you are, the more motivated and the more purpose that you have, the more it shows and the more it reflects in your work and the results that you get. And I do believe also that it's massively an energy game. And I appreciate the complete roller coaster, the highs and lows of the pipeline, and needing that constant energy when that pipeline is low and go, oh, I've got to summon this all out of me somehow so that I can materialize all of these opportunities. And it's just from my energy, right? Just from how I show up, how I interact, how I create. And so I really do believe energy is about sales. Sales is, my goodness, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I can only apologize for me getting things backwards here. So yeah, I believe that sales is all about energy, and being intentional with your energy it's really important. It matters. I also believe that people buy people, not products so much. They also buy products, but it's who you are as you sell. And your ability to take every obstacle as an opportunity to grow and to learn about yourself and to show up in the way that you want to, or that you would like other people to show up for you, is an amazing opportunity as well. And I also believe that what you get as results from the outside is directly correlated with your views, your opinions, and your priorities, because those inform your actions and your mindsets, which influence how you show up in the world and the results you get. So if you want to get the results out there, I believe you start in here with yourself. So on that point, it would probably be a good time for me now to move over to some tips and some strategies, which Courtney and JoBeth wanted me to share with you. So I created something called the P.E.A.C.E framework, P.E.A.C.E, to help you be healthy, happy, and hitting your numbers in these crazy times and beyond. So the first letter, P, that stands for perspective. And that's really understanding the bigger picture. Write down what success means for you in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. What's important? Why are you in this game? If you're working to earn enough money to have the time to spend with your family or go on holiday or travel, remember that and use it as a yardstick with which to compare, because it's so easy to just get swallowed up into the vortex of always on. The Dalai Lama had a really great quote. I'm going to share it with you now. He said, when asked what surprised him most about humanity, that it was man, because he sacrifices his health in order to make money, then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. So be intentional with what you want out of your career, what success means for you, and then constantly refer back to it so that you can then course correct. The next letter, E, stands for energy and energy conservation. And SaaSsy Women will share a template for an energy optimization exercise that I've shared. And I'll explain it to you now. It's very, very simple. You get a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, and in the left-hand side, you put all the things that give me energy, and in the right, all the things that drain my energy. And you make a list using different headings. So that could be people, environments, thoughts, actions, behaviors, self-talk, habits, whatever you want, and then list it out. And when you're done, look at the side of things that give me energy and circle 2 items and commit to doing more of them in the next week. And the other side, the things that drain my energy, cross 2 out and commit to striking them out of your life, at least for this week. And then watch what happens. Notice what happens with your energy levels, your motivation levels. And that leads me on to my next point. A stands for attention. Pay attention and awareness to your body. Notice your energy levels. If your body tells you sleep, listen to it. It knows what it's talking about. You think you're the boss? Really, it's the boss. It will keep on knocking. You might not hear it. You might suppress it, whatever. And if you don't hear it, it will knock louder. And if you keep ignoring it, it will kick the door down. And that goes the same with your emotions. Your emotions are your interface between your body and your mind. And suppressing emotions isn't healthy, because they will also come in and kick the door down. That's where you have things like depression, suicide. Yeah. So be aware and give your body the space it needs. If it's hungry, feed it. If it needs water, give it water. And if it needs to chill out, chill out. And that's my C. C stands for chill. Because we all know that it's not great to be sitting in front of a computer all the time. Your brain just switches off. It's not wired to be constantly on. You have about 20 minutes of productive time before your brain starts to move into your hindbrain. So let me give you a bit of neuroscience as a background. When we're young, we don't download a load of data, what the meanings of everything is, how the world interacts, who am I, everything is downloaded straight into the back of our brain to a place called the basal ganglia. And that allows us to function without having to think about it. We can go on automatic pilot. So think about driving the car, singing a tune and eating a bag of chips. You can do all of that without having to think about it consciously, right? Because it's all set down as habitual patterns in the brain. And if you're in front of the computer for too long, you go into that space of automatic pilot. It's not very productive. Now, when you're about 12 years old or so, your front part of your brain starts activating. This is called your prefrontal cortex. And this is the space of discernment. This is the space of critical analysis and choice, where you can start to look at some of the patterns that are running in your background, some of the scripts that you're running, and say, are these helpful for me? Are they constructive or destructive? And you can start making choices around those, yeah? So you can only do that when you're operating from the space of your prefrontal cortex, which is why you need to chill. Give your brain time to slow down. The fans are overheating. Allow it the space to reboot, and you'll come online working faster, better, more creative, more resourceful. So that's one reason to chill. The other reason to chill is something called adrenal fatigue, which I'm not sure if you've heard about, but it's prevalent at the moment, particularly because our brains are hardwired to threat. Our brains don't know that we're not on the African plains somewhere, but they're hardwired to threat in that if we notice in the corner of our eye there's a lion, we have something called the amygdala hijack. So even before we consciously become aware with our eyes that there's a threat out there, there's a signal that's just gone into the middle of our brain and it's short-circuited it. So our body releases a ton of cortisol. Our stomach takes, all of the blood is diverted away from the stomach and any other unnecessary parts, and it rushes to our legs and our arms. We are flooded with adrenaline and we're ready to fight or flight. Now, it is a jungle out there. Even though we're not on the plains of Africa, our body perceives threat in things like uncertainty. It perceives threat in things like slights to status. It perceives threats in injustice. And hello, has anyone seen any uncertainty, injustice, or threats to status out there at the moment? Add on top this device, which is constantly following you, telling you, hello, hello, work more, and your body is constantly in a state of adrenal fatigue. And if I ask you now to just put your mind on a subject that has you feeling threatened because of uncertainty, status, or injustice, just put your mind there and notice what happens. Because the story about the threat, just the thought about the story about the threat, is enough to create that adrenal response. That's why chilling is so important. It allows your body the time to reboot and to rebalance. And they say that just 10 minutes meditation a day can halve your cortisol levels. So when I say chill, that doesn't mean just sit in front of Netflix. That helps, but do something that allows you to switch your mind off. Sit and stare out at space. Do the belly button contemplation, lying on the sofa. You know, something that's chewing gum for the mind. Allow yourself to chill. And then the last one, which is E, stands for egoic narrative, right? The negative self-talk. And it's called self-talk for a reason, because I don't know if you've noticed, it sounds like a voice. And it's always judgmental, and it's always about me or about you, right? And it can't just let things lie. It can't just observe things experientially. There's always a story behind it. So rather than saying things like anxiety is happening or stress is happening, where you can look at it and notice patterns and go, interesting, I'm noticing a lot more anxiety happening, without identifying it with it. We look at it and we go, I am anxious. I am so anxious. It's been nonstop for me, but I've always been anxious. I've been an anxious child. My parents have been anxious. And, you know, even my dog is anxious, and there's a story, right? We create a narrative, and then it goes on beyond you, and it's this person. It's hardly surprising because my kids are always this, and the stories, right? Become aware of your egoic narrative, because it's very, very draining. And when you're able to start noticing this self-talk from a place of impartiality and just observing it, then you can start to go, okay, that's interesting. I'm running scripts. These scripts are running in the background. And from there, you can start to make conscious choices. Do I want this? Do I not want this? Where you're able to switch on your prefrontal cortex and look at it analytically. And this is where coaching comes in. We're all about rewiring the brain and understanding what patterns you have. It's also a platform for mindfulness as well, and cognitive behavioral therapy. What programs am I running, and how would I like to change it? So if this is an area that interests you, I'd like to invite you all to a workshop that I've offered SaaSsy Women, which is really all about understanding what success is for you and what obstacles you have that are getting in your way. What are the narratives that you're playing? What are the scripts? And channeling your own insight and your own wisdom to be able to answer the questions in a very profound way. So in the workshop, what we'll be doing is we'll be doing a group coaching exercise, and then we'll be doing spot coaching where I'm able to go in and give individual coaching one-on-one. And it's amazing the amount of vicarious breakthroughs that you can also have just by listening to other people and what they're going through, because you'll find that a lot of the things that are happening to one person is happening to us all. Yeah. I also invite you to check out my website if you like, because from there you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can join my Facebook group. I have a mindfulness course that I'm currently running for free for all of my clients, and that's on there. So if you want to join a free mindfulness course, please sign up or just go in and help yourself. It's 4 sessions of an hour. And there's also loads of free content on my YouTube. So yeah, I look forward to connecting up with you in those. And in the meantime, I'd love to open up the floor to take any questions that you have, or to also hear what's come up for you in this talk. Thank you.
And I posted the link in the chat to be able, it's a Google Sheets doc. We have 3 different days for the workshop. So just put your name and your email under the one that you would like to do. And then she will reach out with the Zoom link. Other than that, I do have a question. Kaylee and we actually FaceTime all the time. And today we were talking a lot about imposter syndrome, and just how like so many of like the women that we know have it and have a hard time like feeling comfortable with their success, and not just imposter syndrome. I don't know if that's a term y'all use over in Singapore, but it's something that just we are so affected by. And we were thinking about it, and it's just so hard sometimes to feel like you can be authentic in your professional life, because you have to act a certain way, present yourself a certain way. And we started to realize like how that could be like affecting us in our personal lives, with always feeling like an imposter, because we literally are an imposter in some ways. So what are your, like, I love this, by the way, this is great. What advice do you have for imposter syndrome?
I can totally relate to imposter syndrome. That whole idea of fake it until you can make it, or drive the car as if you've stolen it, right? So to me, what I would do, my first recourse is always just to go in and to ask myself questions and listen to that silent wisdom within. So the question is, what's behind that? What's behind that imposter syndrome? What is it that you're trying to prove? Right? And once you're able to look at that and work out what your intentions are behind that imposter syndrome, it tends to be all around self-protection, right? I'm going to be an imposter because I want to fit in. I don't want to be the tall poppy. I don't want to show that really inside I'm just scrambling about going, right? I need to put on a brave face. Yeah. And I think the first thing is realizing that we all have it and that it's okay. You know, even the guys have it to a certain extent. And in one way, there's a positive gain to it. It helps us show up in a way that reinforces that we can be successful. But I think at the same time, it's really important to be intentional about why we're doing it and to start looking at dismantling any negative intentions that are behind there, right? Having to prove to anyone who, for me, it's all been about having to prove to my dad that I'm just as good as a boy. This has been a huge engine for me throughout. And it's been something that's been a clue. This whole idea of imposter syndrome has allowed me to look at it, right? And to go, okay, interesting, what's behind that? And to start to undo all of those scripts that were behind that. So now I go in and I feel so much more comfortable being authentic because I don't feel like I'm doing it for reasons that are outside of me, that are for somebody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I really like, like finding a reason to be authentic to yourself. You know what I mean? So then whenever, because like I was like, well, if I'm going to be professional and play the game, then I like that idea of being able to think of it as like, okay, like what's my reason behind doing this? And okay, that's great. That answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah. And there's another bit of advice that I can give around that is be yourself, because there is enough of everybody else out there. And I got to a space in my sales journey where I thought, you know what, I'm going to start to play. I'm going to start owning being me. So I wouldn't get answers from people. You know, you'd cold email, and first time, fine, you follow up, second time, follow up. But after like the third or fourth time, I'd get cheeky with it. You know, I'd send a poem, or I'd say something like, you know, I'm assuming that it's either A, B, C. A, you're swamped out, you can't get back to me straight away. B, you just don't care. C, you've been too busy tap dancing around your boardroom because you're so delighted I wrote to you, right? I turned up once to a meeting and somebody never showed up. So I sent them a message and I said, do I smell? This in Singapore, where everything is, you know, decorum based, and they got back to me in a flash. I'm so sorry. They set up a meeting straight away. You can have fun when you start to be authentic, and you could start to show up for who you really are. And people respond because it gives them permission to be who they are. So confidence helps you overcome that imposter syndrome. And you can only be confident when you're confident from a place of authenticity and self. Yeah. Any other questions?
I absolutely love that question and the answer with the imposter syndrome. I struggle with that too. One of the things I really related to in your talk is the adrenal fatigue. One of the things that I struggle with is being a yes girl with any of my careers. Somebody asks me to take on a task, I'm going to say yes, even if it's completely, I have 50 million different things going on. And that's really one of the things I struggle with, because I feel like that one time I say no is going to make me feel like I don't get, put on other different projects that could help with my career. And that's one thing that I struggle with. And I was wondering if you have advice on how to not overdo yourself when taking on these projects at work and things like that can get you noticed to stakeholders, but at the same time, you're one person and you can't do it.
Yeah. So first of all, Courtney, I invite you to join the workshop as well, because it will be really interesting to sort of look at what the scripts are that's running behind that. You know, always have to say yes. I guess the advice that I would give is it's like the energy optimization chart. You focus and you prioritize. What's important for me? And you notice that I use the word me, not for everyone else. What's important for me in terms of, if I want to be intentional about this, if I want to get 10 times the result with 20% of the effort, and I was to write down a list of key things that I need to do, what would I pluck out? And then focus your energy there. That doesn't really help you with the ability to say yes, but from there you could actually start to be really intentional and constructive around the bits that you say yes, and then just practice saying no. It's actually really, really easy. And I've had this with a few of my clients where I've had them say no to me. I've set them tests where they have to go out and do things where they get no as an answer, just so that they can deal with it. Other people as well who can't take compliments. That's another one that I love. And their homework is to go out there and just say thank you. Simple things that we can do, right? If you're always saying yes and you notice it, just try saying no. Just see how it feels. What's the worst that can happen? But don't say no to your body. That's, you know, always say yes. It knows what it's doing.
I'll jump in. This has been wonderful. I've really enjoyed this. I'm looking at myself. I'm thinking about my script going on, and something for me has always been, I'm a little tightly wound. I'll never be the person that can fully chill or maybe meditate. And that's been really, I've always felt like that's been really out of reach for me. I've been very intimidated by that. And you were talking about how 10 minutes of meditation could really change how you feel in the course of your day. I'm sure there's way more than a few minutes to discuss this, but I'd love to know a few tips on how do you get into that? How do you approach meditation if you're a newbie?
I love that question, Alison. Thank you so much for asking it. So let me ask you this. Do you like reading a book or painting or walking your dog or whatever it is?
All the above. A big thing for me is puzzling. Like tonight I'll go puzzle just to de-stress. That's what my mind likes to wander with.
Well, in that case, you're already a master meditator.
Oh, really?
Really, what it is it's about single pointed concentration.
Really?
It's
okay.
Get out of your head with all of that narrative, that rumination going on, all that chatter, and to being able to just drop it and switch off and be in the moment. And so a good meditation is as long as one breath cycle, one in and one out. If you can do that and keep your mind on the object, in my opinion, you can already meditate. And there are so many different types of meditation out there. You do what's right for you. If that means switching off and listening to a great piece of music, right, or painting or puzzling, then do that. I think there's a whole load of judgment about meditation, and I can't do that. But it just starts with an awareness of what your attention is on. And one of the things that, if you guys are interested, I can run mindfulness workshops for you, or you just access what I have on the content. And it's really starting being aware of when your mind wanders and what happens when it wanders. And if you're able to catch it halfway through a thought and you're able to go, interesting, I spotted you. That's amazing. Well done, awareness. Pat yourself on the back, emoji, high five, and reward your awareness and bring it back to center. Then that actually helps reinforce your meditation muscle, because so many times people focus on having that single pointed mind. And then when the mind wanders, they go, oh no, I wandered again. I can't meditate. I'm useless at meditating. But if you actually make the meditation about noticing your mind wandering and becoming aware of the thoughts as they arise and what it is that your mind attends to, and being able to categorize that as patterns. So for example, mine is work, food, work, food, kids, you know? And you're able to literally go, this is amazing, well done awareness. Then you're going to start getting a real richness, because you start to be able to develop insights as to what your mind attends to. And when you start noticing what your mind attends to, move over Netflix. There you become a psychonaut. You're able to start going into the space of your own mind and noticing what happens. And that's really, really amazing. And all it does is it starts with doing a puzzle and just noticing and going, hey, that's really cool. I just noticed myself thinking about something.
I think that is such a refreshing perspective that, at least for myself, it makes getting into that mindset seem so much more approachable. So thank you.
You're most welcome. I mean, meditation needs to be joyful. And the other really good trick is to constantly reinforce why you do it. It's a benefit. So when I start, I always say, you know, thank you for this time, space, and inclination. And I remind myself why I meditate. I meditate because it makes my whole day go better. It makes me calmer. It helps me tap into this quiet wisdom that is the opposite of that grumbly voice, that judgmental voice. It's the one that whispers. And it only needs to say something once, and I can ignore it if I want to at my peril, but it has spoken. It's like, you know, the Jedi, that part within you. So that's why I meditate. And you just repeat that as you do so, and that will build in that muscle of wanting to do that.
Well, I'll certainly be paying attention when I puzzle this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. So if there's no questions, does anybody have any insights that arose from them during this talk that they want to share? No pressure.
I liked being able to like pay attention. You know, I liked that one. Just kind of taking some time to like scan my body, and because I've done a lot of like therapy and work on being able to like identify emotions, identify, you know, what my body needs, and, you know, building up that trust. So that really stood out to me, as well as just kind of being able to figure out what the script is, because I've definitely you know, done some of that in the past too. But it's been a while. You know, it's been a while since I've really thought about like, okay, like what is the script in my head whenever I'm like feeling anxious over my job? You know, like where is that coming from? So I think, yeah, like I really like that part, and being able to like reflect back on some of the work I've done and some of the work that I could definitely revisit, especially with the whole pandemic and everything. So
yeah. Great awareness. There's a lovely metaphor that I want to share with you, right, about the thoughts that go through our head all the time. So imagine that you are like the blue sky. You're actually limitless. Your consciousness is limitless. And things happen in our life that are the clouds, right? Anger, anxiety, depression, whatever it is. And we tend to mistake ourselves for the clouds. I am anxious. And really, they're just thoughts that arise, abide, and dissolve, right? And it's so very easy to identify with those clouds. But when you do notice that you are there and you're saying things that start with, I am so angry, I am an anxious person, you know, then just stop and notice that you're doing it. And remember, you're the sky, the blue sky, the limitless blue sky beyond. And just notice that those clouds are there. Anxiety is happening. And from that spaciousness of blue sky, notice objectively that anxiety is happening. Not to me, it's just anxiety is happening. Then also notice the emotional response that you normally have, right? This is how we start to create connections. This is how we start to rewire. And then just allow that cloud to float off and be the blue sky.
we can do maybe a couple more minutes of discussion, and then we'll just break out into, we'll probably do about 3 groups to keep it a little small.
I love the positive just vibe and energy that you put out and radiate from, you know, your speaking and what you're saying, and being able to chill really stuck out to me. And so I'm just really commenting on how just it's easy to forget to relax, and you know, it being right in the middle of peace or what have you is pretty cool. Um, so yeah, I like that.
Thank you, Charity. And I see you've got it on the wall behind you.
Oh yeah, I do have it there.
Yeah. And this is not something that you just do once and it's done. You know, I'm constantly flying off the handle or working myself up. I start stacking things up by have tos and to dos. Have tos is a horrible one. I'm consciously noticing when I say have to and flipping it to, do I have to? Do I want to? You know, and I just go into overwhelm just thinking about it. But now I have the tools just to go, right, you're doing this again. Behave, come on. Do you really have to do all these things? And start to get intentional and prioritize it. But the amazing thing, to go back to your point, Charity, is if you look at your life as just this opportunity to notice things that are going on in this extraordinary mind that we all have, right? And to learn about yourself and to grow. It's like peeling away the layers of an onion, and it's never ending. Until the day I die, I'm going to be peeling them back. You know, sure, you're going to get some tears, but you're also going to discover amazing things as you get closer to the core of who you are, to that blue sky consciousness. And that is the place of authenticity. That's the place of peace. And you have it all within you at any time. All you need to do is just switch off the computer, switch off your mind, and allow yourself to access it. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to pay anyone for it. It's there. You know, at the core of each and every one of you is something completely extraordinary and incredibly profound. And that's one of the reasons that I love coaching so much, because the basis of coaching is it assumes that all of our clients are whole and resourceful and creative, and they don't need to be fixed. And that there is simply no other you out there on the planet who is better equipped at solving your problems and creating the opportunities that are right for you than yourself. It's just really creating that space and asking the right questions so that you can bring it up for you, so that you can see for yourself, let go of what you need to let go of and take up what you need to take up. Yeah, it's all a question of perspective. Yeah. I'd buy
Well,
that.
awesome. Yeah, I guess we can go ahead and do breakout rooms real quick.
Thank you for your questions. They're great questions and feedback.